There's a peculiar kind of betrayal that does more than just hurt. It shatters. It doesn't simply wound you, it dismantles everything you believe to be true about loyalty, love, and trust. You don't forget it. You can't. Because this kind of betrayal doesn't fade. It echoes. It echoes in the silence of your nights, in the hollow stares of people who once swore they'd never turn their back on you. And yet, here you are, abandoned, crushed, and buried alive by the very hands you once held in confidence. But let's pause here and ask something uncomfortable. Why do people destroy what they cannot control? Why do they turn against those who pose no threat, except for the threat of being honest, pure, and unwaveringly loyal in a world addicted to masks and manipulation? You were never their enemy, but your presence, your truth, your light, it exposed something in them they couldn't bear to see. So they buried you alive. Not with dirt, but with lies, with betrayals, with rejection. They made you feel unworthy, unwanted, and forgotten. You walked among them, yet you were unseen. And in their minds they believed they had erased you. They believed that silence would suffocate your spirit, that abandonment would break your soul. They thought you'd stay buried forever. But here's the truth about those who are buried alive. They don't die. They transform. In the depths of your suffering, something ancient stirred, something primal and unrelenting. Pain has a peculiar way of forging strength. Isolation births insight. Betrayal breeds resolve, and as they walked away, content in the illusion of your defeat, they did not realize they were creating a storm, a force that would one day haunt their every step. Let me ask you, have you ever wondered why some people fear your name even after they've destroyed your presence in their life? It's because they know. Deep down they know that the human spirit, when pushed to the edge, doesn't crumble. It rises, and it rises with a vengeance they cannot comprehend. This isn't about revenge. No, this is about becoming a living reminder of the truth they tried to bury. A walking testimony that what doesn't kill you will haunt them forever. You become the echo in their silence, the shadow in their light, the weight on their conscience. They cannot unsee you. They cannot forget you. And every success, every victory you now claim becomes a reflection of their failure to destroy you. You will haunt them, not with hate, but with greatness, not with vengeance, but with your unstoppable ascent. Your silence became the storm they couldn't escape. They thought your silence meant defeat. They thought your silence was submission, a sign that you had nothing left to fight with, nothing left to offer, nothing left to say. In their arrogance, they mistook your quiet for weakness. They believed that by burying you, by betraying you, by pushing you into isolation, they had snuffed out your light. They walked away with smug smiles, never once looking back, because to them you were done. But silence is a strange thing. It's not always the absence of sound. Sometimes it's the gathering of strength. Sometimes it's the calm before the storm, a storm they didn't see coming because they were too busy celebrating your downfall. Have you ever felt that? That crushing silence after betrayal? That unbearable weight of having everything you loved ripped from you and no one left to turn to? The nights when you screamed inside but no sound escaped your lips? When your heart broke in the darkness and not a single soul noticed? That silence, that void, it was never weakness. It was the birthing ground of something greater. While they moved on, while they laughed, while they whispered behind your back, you were in silence, transforming. That silence became your sanctuary, your crucible, your fire. And in that fire you were remade. You learned to endure without recognition, to survive without support, to grow without applause. And what they thought was your end was only the beginning of your awakening. Now, every time your name is mentioned, it unsettles them. Every success you achieve, every step you take forward, it echoes in their mind. Your silence, the one they thought would bury you, has become the storm they cannot escape. It haunts them in ways they never expected, not because you seek revenge, but because your growth, your strength, your very existence invalidates everything they believed about you. Imagine a storm building at sea. The sky is clear, the water calm, and no one expects anything. But below the surface, unseen currents swirl. The pressure rises, and soon the sky darkens, and when the storm hits, it's unstoppable. That's what your silence was. Beneath the stillness, your soul gathered force. And now you are that storm, and they are unprepared. Let's speak plainly. You were underestimated. They didn't fear you because they believed they had destroyed you. They didn't respect you because they thought you needed them. They didn't value you because they couldn't see your worth beyond what you could offer them. But when you went silent, when you disappeared, they lost their control over you, and now your silence has turned into the loudest sound in their lives. They think of you not because they care, but because they fear what you've become. They wonder where you are, not out of concern, but because your absence disturbs their peace. They cannot undo the past, and now they live with the reality that the one they buried is the very presence they cannot erase. That is the power of silence. It doesn't beg, it doesn't shout, it doesn't fight. It simply grows until one day it becomes the force that shakes the ground beneath those who tried to destroy you. You are no longer the person they betrayed. You are the storm they never thought would come. Their lies fueled your legacy. They didn't just betray you, they lied about you. They twisted your truth, tarnished your name, and manipulated the narrative so that they could walk away clean while leaving you drowning in shame. They whispered behind closed doors, turned friends against you, and painted you as the villain in the story where you were the one who bled the most. And the worst part, people believed them. The very people who once claimed to love you, to support you, looked away or joined in the betrayal. You were isolated not just by their actions, but by the weight of their lies. Have you ever stood in the center of chaos you didn't create, watching your life unravel because someone chose to weaponize your kindness? Have you felt the sting of hearing your name laced with lies? Lies so bold, so cruel, that you began to question your own reality? That pain is sharp, it cuts deep, it makes you feel powerless, invisible, crushed under the weight of a reputation you no longer recognize. But let me ask you something. What if those lies were never meant to destroy you, but to elevate you? What if their betrayal, their deception, their manipulation was the very fire that forged your legacy? Here's the truth they never saw coming. Every lie they told about you became the proof of their own character. While they dragged your name through the mud, they unknowingly exposed their own filth. While they tried to bury your light with darkness, your truth, unspoken but real, began to shine even brighter. People began to see. Slowly but surely, the mask fell from their face, and the world began to glimpse the truth they tried so hard to hide. You didn't need to defend yourself. You didn't need to scream or retaliate. You stood in silence, wounded but not broken, and let your actions, your growth, your perseverance speak for you. And now, those lies, the ones they thought would destroy you, have fueled your rise. They have become the stepping stones of your legacy, a legacy built not on falsehoods, but on resilience, truth, and undeniable strength. Imagine a fire set to consume you, but instead of burning you, it illuminated you. That's what their lies did. They lit a fire they thought would reduce you to ashes, but instead, it made you visible to the world. People who once turned away are now turning back, questioning what they believed, regretting their part in your pain. And those who betrayed you, they are now chained to the lies they can't escape, suffocating in the very smoke they created. Because here's what they didn't understand. Lies are temporary, but truth endures. Falsehoods fade, but integrity is eternal. You have become the embodiment of that truth, unshaken, unwavering, and undeniable. And every success you achieve, every victory you claim, haunts them because it proves them wrong in ways they can never erase. Now, when your name is spoken, it carries weight, not because of their lies, but because of your truth. Your journey, your rise, your unbreakable spirit, that's your legacy. And it's a legacy they inadvertently helped create. Their betrayal didn't end you, it elevated you. And now you are the living proof that those who try to destroy you often become the architects of your greatness. Your pain-crafted, unshakable resilience. There's a kind of pain that doesn't just hurt, it changes you. It gets inside your bones, settles into your soul, and whispers to you in the dark moments when you think you can't go on. This isn't the pain of a scraped knee or a passing insult. This is the pain of being betrayed by someone you loved, someone you trusted with your heart, your loyalty, your life. This is the pain of being abandoned at your lowest, of looking around for help and realizing no one is coming. Have you felt it? That deep ache like a hole inside your chest where love used to be, where laughter, trust, and companionship once lived? That kind of suffering doesn't fade easily. It lingers. It shapes you. It pushes you to the edge of yourself. And there, at that edge, you either fall or you learn to fly. You didn't just survive your pain. You endured it, faced it, lived through it when others would have collapsed. Every tear you shed, every sleepless night, every moment you doubted your worth, it forged you. Like steel in fire, like diamonds under pressure, you became something they could no longer break. And here's the truth. They never expected you to recover. They believed their betrayal would be your end, that you would wither away, lost in despair, silenced by suffering. But pain doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it builds resilience, so unshakable, so powerful, it becomes the foundation of greatness. And now the pain they caused you is the very reason they can no longer reach you, no longer shake you, no longer control you. Think about this. When you touch something hot, your body reacts, it learns, it remembers. That's what pain does. It teaches, it strengthens, it prepares you for battles ahead. And because you have already walked through the fire, because you've already endured the worst, nothing they do now can harm you in the same way again. Your resilience has become your armor. They see it, they feel it, and it terrifies them. Not because you seek revenge, but because your presence now radiates something they cannot understand, a quiet power, born not from pride, but from pain. Let me ask you, have you ever looked back and realized that the very thing that almost destroyed you became the reason you now stand so tall? That's not just survival, that's transformation. You've become untouchable, not because you never hurt, but because you've already felt the worst and emerged stronger. And here's what haunts them. They no longer have the power to hurt you. Their words, their absence, their rejection, it no longer breaks you. Because now you carry within you a resilience that no betrayal can undo. Your scars, once a source of shame, are now symbols of strength, proof that you lived, you endured, and you rose. Every day you wake up and move forward, you remind them that their actions didn't destroy you. They shaped a version of you they can no longer manipulate. Your resilience stands as a silent, haunting testimony of their failure. They tried to crush you, and instead they created a force that cannot be broken. Their abandonment gave birth to your independence. They left you when you needed them most. They vanished, and not quietly, not respectfully. No, they turned their backs and walked away as if you meant nothing. The same people who once called you family, friend, love, they discarded you like you were a burden, a mistake, an inconvenience they didn't want to carry anymore. They didn't just leave. They made you feel like you deserved it. And in that crushing moment, you stood alone, wounded, abandoned, shattered, asking one silent, agonizing question: why? Have you ever stood in a room full of people and still felt alone? Have you ever cried silently, hoping someone would see your pain, reach out, pull you back from the edge, only to realize they were never coming? That's the kind of abandonment that doesn't just hurt. It cuts into your soul. It makes you question your worth, your value, your place in the world. And in their absence, you weren't just lonely, you were broken. But here's what they never anticipated: that their abandonment would become your liberation, that their rejection would be the very thing that forced you to stand on your own feet, to build yourself up from the ruins they left behind, that their silence would give you space, not to crumble, but to discover a power within you that had been waiting to be born. You see, when they left, they thought they took everything, your support, your security, your reason to keep going. But in reality, they took only the chains they once used to hold you back. And in that emptiness, you found something no one can give you: independence. The kind of independence that isn't loud or boastful, but quiet, solid, and unshakable. The kind of independence that scares them now because it means you don't need them anymore. Not for love, not for validation, not for survival. Think about this. A tree growing in a dense forest relies on others for shelter, for shade. But when it stands alone on a barren hill, it either withers or it grows strong, its roots digging deeper, its trunk becoming firm. That's you, abandoned, alone, yet growing stronger than they ever imagined. Now, while they look back expecting to find you broken, all they see is someone they can no longer reach, someone who thrived without them. Their abandonment has become their greatest mistake, because now you are self-sufficient, grounded, powerful. You learn to navigate life without leaning on anyone who didn't have your best interest at heart, and that terrifies them, because your independence is proof that they never held the power, that you were never as weak as they believed, that you didn't just survive their absence, you became unstoppable because of it. Now, every step you take alone echoes in their conscience. Every time you succeed, laugh, live fully, it reminds them that you don't need them. And for people who once thrived on controlling you, that is haunting. Your independence is a mirror reflecting their irrelevance, their failure, their loss. They let go of someone who didn't just rise, but soared. Your success exposes their failure. They thought they had the final word. When they left you broken, alone, and defeated, they believed your story ended there. In their eyes, you were finished, crushed under the weight of their betrayal, buried under the shame they crafted for you. They imagined a future without you in it, a world where your name faded into silence, your dreams collapsed, and your presence became nothing more than a forgotten memory. They walked away, convinced they had won. But what they didn't realize is that success isn't always loud at first. Sometimes it grows in silence. Sometimes it builds slowly in the background, away from the noise, far from the spotlight, until one day it becomes impossible to ignore. And now your life, your progress, your victories, they shine like a light they can't escape. Every step you've taken forward is a reminder of everything they tried and failed to destroy. Have you felt it? That moment when you begin to rise and suddenly those who betrayed you can't look you in the eye? That shift in energy when your name, once spoken with mockery or dismissal, now carries weight, now makes them uneasy? That's because your success doesn't just highlight what you've accomplished. It exposes their failure, their cowardice, their inability to break you. Let's be honest, they expected your downfall to validate their choices. They wanted to see you stuck, lost, dependent, so they could justify what they did, so they could say, see, they couldn't make it without me. But you flipped the script. You proved that their betrayal didn't define you, your strength did. And now every achievement you earn challenges the lies they told, destroys the image they painted of you, and holds them accountable in a way they never expected. Imagine a mirror they're forced to look into, one that reflects not their success, but yours. And in that reflection, they see everything they lost, everything they will never have access to again. That's what your success has become, a haunting reminder that their attempt to bury you only planted a seed for your greatness. Let me ask you, have you noticed how they watch you now? From a distance, in silence, hiding behind fake smiles or complete avoidance. They don't reach out because they're proud. They stay silent because they're ashamed. Ashamed that they walked away from someone who was destined to shine. Ashamed that they gave up on you before your story even began. And that shame eats at them because your rise makes them small. It confronts their ego, their pride, their belief that they could control your destiny. But now they see they never had that power. Your success doesn't need revenge. It doesn't need words. It simply exists, and its existence is louder than anything they've ever said or done. It speaks volumes to them, to those who doubted you, and to the world. Every win, every milestone, every goal achieved is a silent testimony to your strength and a loud condemnation of their failure, and they feel it every day. In the quiet moments when they reflect on the past, your name comes back, not as a distant memory, but as a haunting truth. They tried to destroy you, but instead they fueled your rise. And now their failure is etched into your success for all to see. They lost control. Now you own the narrative. Once they had control, not just over your actions, but over how the world saw you. They shaped the story. They painted you in the colors they chose: weak, needy, unworthy. They whispered in ears, manipulated perceptions, and stood confidently as the author of your downfall. In their hands, your life was a script, one they rewrote to suit their ego, to make themselves the hero while casting you as the fool, the failure, the forgetful one. Have you ever felt powerless in your own life? Like no matter what you did, someone else pulled the strings, like your truth was silenced beneath the weight of lies and no one cared enough to see the real you? That helplessness is suffocating. It's not just betrayal, it's erasure. They tried to erase your voice, your worth, your presence. And for a moment, you believed them. For a moment, you doubted yourself. But moments passed and something inside you snapped. You realized that their power was an illusion, that the story they told about you was nothing more than a desperate attempt to keep you small, to keep you under control. And when they walked away thinking they'd won, they didn't realize they left behind the pen, the very tool you'd use to rewrite everything. Now you own the narrative, not them, not their lies, not their manipulation. You speak your truth, you walk your path, and every word, every step reclaims your life. You are no longer the character in their story. You are the author of your own, and the world is beginning to hear your voice louder than ever. And it haunts them, because when someone loses control over the person they once manipulated, it terrifies them. They thrived on power, on knowing they could twist your emotions, dictate your decisions, shape how others saw you. Now that power is gone, and they're left watching from the sidelines as you become everything they said you couldn't be. Imagine a stage where they once stood in the spotlight, holding center attention, while you waited in the wings, unnoticed. But now, you're the one in the light, and they're lost in the shadows, invisible, irrelevant. That's what your growth has done. That's what your independence, your truth, your rise has achieved. You've turned their control into chaos for them. Let me ask you, have you ever thought about why they still linger? Watching silently, stalking your progress, pretending not to care, but always aware of what you're doing? It's because they can't let go of what they lost, the power, the influence, the control. It defined them, and now you define yourself, and that reality eats at them like rust on metal. You own the narrative now, and they hate it, because every time you speak your truth, it dismantles the false image they built. Every time you rise, it erases the lies they told. And every time people see your strength, it forces them to confront the truth. They lost you, and they lost control. Your life now stands as a monument, not to their betrayal, but to your freedom. And as you continue to rise, they are left behind, imprisoned by the story they once tried to control, while you live in the truth they can no longer deny. You became the ghost of their regret. They thought they buried you and moved on. They convinced themselves that your chapter was closed, that your presence would fade, your voice would fall silent, and your memory would vanish into the shadows of their past. They didn't just betray you, they erased you in their minds, believing that you would never rise again. And for a time they lived freely, basking in the illusion that their actions carried no weight, no consequence, no reflection. But time has a strange way of revealing the truth. Because as they tried to forget you, they began to feel something else, something they didn't expect. A presence, a disturbance, a name that wouldn't disappear, your name. You see, when someone betrays a person who is real, loyal, pure-hearted, they don't just lose that person, they lose peace. They carry that betrayal with them, whether they admit it or not. It lingers in the silence, in the moments between laughter, in the stillness of the night when the world goes quiet and they are alone with themselves. That's when you appear, not in vengeance, but in memory, and that memory becomes their torment. You became the ghost of their regret, not because you chased them, not because you sought revenge, but because you became everything they can't escape. Your name, your face, your truth, it follows them. When they see someone who reminds them of you, when they hear your name in conversation, when they witness your success, when they stumble upon a post, a memory, a moment, you return. You haunt their conscience because deep down they know what they did. Let me ask you, have you ever wondered why they avoid you, why they can't look you in the eye, why they pretend you don't exist, or why they desperately try to act like their life is perfect? It's because they fear the mirror you've become, a mirror that reflects their betrayal, their weakness, their failure to recognize your worth. And the worst part, they can't undo it. Regret is a heavy burden. And the regret of losing someone they once had control over, someone they could have cherished, someone they betrayed for selfish reasons, that regret becomes a slow poison. It doesn't kill fast. It lingers. It simmers. It gnaws at their soul, day by day, moment by moment. You didn't ask to become their ghost. But when you rose from the ashes, when you built yourself up from the destruction they caused, when you lived, truly lived, in freedom, power, and truth, you became a presence they could no longer escape. And now every time they think of you, it's not pride they feel, it's shame. Every time they remember your kindness, it's not joy, it's loss. Every time they see your success, it's not admiration, it's regret. You haunt them not with anger, but with the weight of their own decisions. Because your existence now is a testament to everything they threw away, everything they didn't value, everything they failed to destroy. You are the living proof that they lost someone irreplaceable, and that truth, that undeniable truth, never lets them rest. You were never meant to stay buried. They believed the dirt they threw on your name would be the end of your story. They believed the silence they forced upon you would erase your voice. They believed the pain they inflicted would consume you. But what they didn't understand is that the human spirit cannot be buried alive, not when it's anchored in truth, not when it's fueled by pain, not when it's forged in betrayal. You didn't just survive, you rose. You didn't just heal, you transformed, and in that transformation, you became something they never expected, a force they cannot escape. Your life, your strength, your success, all of it now haunts those who tried to destroy you, not because you sought revenge, but because your very existence exposes the truth they tried to hide. Every step you take forward, every breath of freedom you breathe, every victory you claim, it echoes in their conscience. They see you in places they never expected. They hear your name in conversations they can't control. And in the quiet, when the weight of their choices presses down, they remember you, not as the one they buried, but as the one who rose. Let this truth settle in your soul. You are not forgotten. You are not lost. You are not defeated. You are the proof that pain doesn't win, betrayal doesn't last, and lies don't endure. You are the living reminder that justice is real, that karma moves silently, and that no act of cruelty goes unnoticed by the divine. Now walk boldly, knowing that those who tried to erase you are now haunted by what they can never have again, you. And in their regret, you remain.